In the dim glow of a late autumn twilight, Cassandra, a woman of gentle manners and secret misgivings, found herself adrift between two worlds. For years, her days had passed in quiet service to the life shared with Robert, a steadfast husband whose reliability had once been the sole compass by which her heart navigated. Their modest home, nestled amidst rolling hills and time-worn streets, was a sanctuary of routines and unspoken vows. Yet beneath the surface of domesticated bliss, in the depths of her soulful eyes stirred a hunger for something wild, dangerous, and infinitely more real than the life she had come to know. It began subtly, almost imperceptibly, one rainy afternoon at Rosewood Cafe. Amid the low hum of whispered conversations and clinking porcelain, Cassandra's gaze met that of Nathan, a stranger whose stormy eyes carried a promise of escape from the confines of expectation. His smile was fleeting but laden with unspoken invitation. In that charged moment, the rigid boundaries of her existence began to tremble. Slowly, as if orchestrated by fate herself, their paths crossed again and again. What started as light, accidental exchanges evolved into a series of clandestine meetings that thrummed with the rhythm of forbidden desire. Under the cover of dusk, in shadowed corners of abandoned train stations and dimly lit back alleys, Cassandra allowed herself to be swept away by passion's tumultuous current. Nathan's touch awakened parts of her long suppressed, a fierce longing not merely for physical embrace, but for a life defined by authenticity and visceral intensity. In those stolen hours, the cadence of her heart quickened with a defiant joy as well as with the bitter tang of impending consequence. Every whispered secret, every lingering glance exchanged in that clandestine world, was a rebellion against the stifling routine of married life, an assertion that she was more than just a dutiful wife. Yet at home, the silence grew heavy like an unspoken accusation. Robert's gentle inquiries, once matched by warm reassurance, now faltered into tentative murmurs of concern. The laughter that had once filled their evenings was gradually replaced by measured politeness and cautious distance. Unbeknownst to him, each stolen moment with Nathan chipped away at the foundation of their shared life. The familiar creak of the wooden floorboards, the soft hum of routine conversations, every detail of their domestic existence was now tinged with an undercurrent of regret and unfulfilled longing. One dreary evening, as rain drummed relentlessly against the window panes, Cassandra ventured to an old train station on the outskirts of town. There, under the fickle glow of a flickering neon sign, the world around her seemed to pause. Nathan emerged from the shadows, his expression a blend of vulnerability and resolve. With the haunting ambience of distant train whistles and cold, echoing silence as their backdrop, Cassandra's barriers finally crumbled. Her voice, quivering between confession and defiance, spilled forth her inner turbulence, a tapestry woven of years spent sacrificing passion on the altar of stability. Nathan listened intently, his eyes reflecting not just empathy but an understanding born of his own bruised history. In that charged, fragile moment, the two of them clung to a mutual hope that perhaps, amid the wreckage of their respective lives, they could salvage a truth worth living. Yet even as the ephemeral thrill of their rendezvous kindled the embers of a new identity for Cassandra, the consequences of her duplicity loomed large. The duality of her life grew ever more pronounced, a delicate balancing act between the comfortable certainty of Robert's love and the wild, irrepressible call of passion represented by Nathan. At home, Robert's growing silence and the subtle shifts in his expressions were harbingers of a storm gathering on the horizon of their marriage. The once warm glow of shared dinners and tender smiles was now replaced by an icy distance, a space filled with unsaid words and lingering suspicions. In the quiet solitude of midnight, Cassandra found herself poring over old letters and faded photographs, searching for hints of the woman she had once been before the weight of social expectation tethered her spirit. Each word she read, every memory she revisited, stirred a potent mix of nostalgia and regret. Through these solitary moments, she began to chronicle her inner journey, a confidential diary of passion, remorse, and the agonizing question of whether reclaiming the life she had lost was even possible. With trembling resolve, she penned secret missives filled with raw honesty, words that bore witness to the transformation of her heart from one of unquestioning loyalty to one pulsating with defiant dreams and desperate longing. As the days bled indistinguishably into nights, the convergence of fate and choice became inescapable. Robert, sensing the widening gap between them, initiated a conversation fraught with trembling vulnerability, a quiet confrontation in the stillness of their dim living room. His eyes pleaded for answers, for some semblance of the truth that now lay hidden behind Cassandra's guarded smile. Words were exchanged in soft, measured tones, each syllable laden with the gravity of betrayal and the aching hope for redemption. In that suspended moment, their shared history and the fragile promise of what might still be merged into a tapestry of sorrow and tentative forgiveness. Outside, the crisp air of early spring belied the intensity of the unfolding emotional tempest. In hushed corridors and amidst whispered rumors in the small, watchful town, the story of Cassandra's clandestine dalliance began to ripple outward. Friends exchanged glances heavy with unspoken judgments, while those who cared for her held on to a faint hope that the storm might yet pass without leaving irreparable scars. But as Cassandra stood on the precipice of irrevocable change, each moment pulsed with the danger of discovery, a danger that threatened not only her own heart but the delicate fabric of a life that was, until now, anchored in quiet certainty. Now, as dusk settles once more over her divided world, Cassandra finds herself poised at a crossroads where the past and the future converge in a haze of possibility and despair. In the interplay of flickering candlelight and encroaching shadows, the promise of reinvention is tempered by the heavy toll of secrets kept and betrayals borne. Her story, far from reaching its final chapter, hangs in the balance, a mystery of love, loss, and the relentless pursuit of a truth that refuses to be confined by the expectations of a single life. As the weeks bled into one another, the tension in Cassandra's heart became an ever-present ache. Each morning, she awoke to the sterile light of routine, a husband's half-hearted smile at breakfast, the soft hum of Robert's silent disapproval, and the lingering residue of last night's whispered confessions. Inside the quiet corners of her mind, the echo of Nathan's promises swirled like autumn leaves caught in a temperamental wind. His voice, low and reassuring during their stolen moments, contrasted sharply with the muted calls of duty and guilt that now defined her everyday life. One rain-soaked afternoon, utterly alone in the solitude of her study, Cassandra's trembling hand reached for a neatly folded letter Nathan had left on her lap. In his hurried scrawl, he spoke of dreams too wild to be confined in any life but his own, a plea for her to meet him one last time at an abandoned bookstore on the edge of town. With each word she read, memories of their clandestine nights surfaced, the secret corners where passion had ignited untamed hopes, the soft haze of moonlit rendezvous that temporarily dissolved the boundaries of her familiar existence. Yet with that rush came the piercing retribution of reality. The letter was both a lifeline and a reminder of the precipice upon which she teetered, one step away from irreversible change, and one step away from the man who had, for years, embodied every comfort her soul had known. That very night, as storm clouds gathered ominously over the quiet town, Cassandra found herself drawn to the abandoned bookstore. Every step toward the crumbling facade echoed her internal struggle, a mingling of righteous defiance and paralyzing remorse. The building, long forgotten by the townsfolk, stood as a testament to the passage of time and the inevitability of secrets unearthed. Inside, amidst shelves coated in dust and pages swollen with untold stories, Nathan waited. His eyes shone with both hope and anguish as he unveiled his vision of a future unbound by societal duty, a life where passion could be honored without fear or compromise. For a long, breathless moment, the tangled layers of desire, regret, and longing coalesced into an almost tangible reality. In that charged silence, Cassandra's heart pounded in defiant rhythm, and the weight of every decision yet to be made pressed upon her like an insistent tide. Far away, within the confines of their aging home, Robert wrestled with a storm of his own. The simmering tension in the silent rooms whispered of truths long hidden. At night, as shadows danced on peeling wallpaper and memories of happier times surfaced in quiet murmurs, he began piecing together fragments. A misplaced perfume, a text message left ajar on a screen, the tremor in Cassandra's voice when questioned. His love for her, deep and enduring, now clashed violently with the dawning understanding that the woman he had cherished was grappling with forces far beyond simple discontent. Torn between the instinct to protect and the dread of confronting betrayal, Robert withdrew into a self-imposed solitude. Each day became a gauntlet of introspection and questions without answers, a slow unraveling of a tapestry he had once believed to be indestructible. As the first light of dawn broke one fateful morning, Cassandra returned from the bookstore with the letter clutched tightly in her hand. The chill of early spring air mingled with an inner tumult that left her both emancipated and imprisoned. In her eyes burned the flicker of rebellion, yet her steps were weighted by the gravity of the life she was in danger of shattering. With every stride back to the world she had dared to defy, she knew that these moments of fragile freedom were laced with heartache, a trembling prelude to inevitable collision. The path ahead promised no redemption without sacrifice, and she was forced to confront the bitter truth. There was no simple remedy for a heart divided between the secure cadence of a lifelong bond and the wild, uncharted territory of forbidden love. Within the quiet urgency of that dawning day, Cassandra's internal war reached a fevered pitch. The pages of her hidden diary, filled with raw confessions and unbidden dreams, now seemed to pulse with a life of their own, urging her toward choices that could not be undone. Each carefully penned word had been a quiet rebellion, an attempt to capture the unyielding desire for authenticity. Now, as the town around her began murmuring of secrets and the inescapable consequences of indiscretion, Cassandra faced the singular moment of reckoning, a confrontation with the self she had long tried to hide. In that crucible of light and shadow, amidst a chorus of past regrets and unwritten futures, she realized that no pathway offered solace without its own attendant scars. And as the storm of revelation and remorse loomed ever closer, the fragile balance of love, betrayal, and the call of a long-suppressed truth beckoned her forward into an uncertain destiny. Cassandra awoke one cool, misty morning with a heaviness that belied the promise of a new day. The delicate interplay of remorse and determination coursed through her as she tried to piece together shards of a fractured self. In the early light, when the world still lingered in a quiet hush, she found herself retracing the steps of her internal journey amidst the graying silhouettes of ancient trees lining the quiet lanes of the town. Every dewdrop on the grass seemed to shimmer with memories of whispered confessions and clandestine rendezvous, each a testament to the inner turmoil that had both betrayed and redeemed her. In that fragile moment of solitude, Cassandra vowed to face the consequences of her choices and embark upon the slow, arduous process of healing, no matter how uncertain the future might be. Meanwhile, Robert grappled with an unyielding storm of emotions that surged as relentlessly as the wind over barren fields. In the stillness of his study, a sanctuary now transformed into a confessional of regrets, he pored over old journals and faded photographs, searching for answers that lay buried deep within the history of their shared life. Every word, every half-remembered laugh, twisted together into a bittersweet mosaic of what once was and what might be lost forever. As night fell, his internal dialogue became a symphony of both longing and resignation. The love that once shielded him now felt as though it were crumbling under the weight of secrets too long concealed. Yet, amid this storm, a quiet resolve began to form, a determination to nurture the embers of a connection that, however scarred, still held the promise of reunion. It was during one of those long, sleepless nights that fate intervened in an unexpected way. At a community gathering held in the renovated town hall, a space that had seen many celebrations and heartbreaks over the years, Cassandra encountered Elena once more. The radiant friend, whose voice had once guided her through the labyrinth of her own doubts, now offered a gentle smile that mingled warmth with constancy. Elena's words, softly spoken as they strolled beneath a canopy of twinkling lights and murmured goodbyes, were laced with quiet wisdom. "Sometimes," she said, "the heaviest burdens we carry are the ones not spoken aloud. Transparency births healing, even if the path is fraught with pain." Her counsel resonated deeply within Cassandra, igniting a determination to bridge the chasm between her shattered past and the faint glow of redemption. Inspired by this rekindled hope, Cassandra initiated a series of candid dialogues with Robert. In a small, sunlit room overlooking a garden still clinging to the remnants of winter blooms, she recounted the intricate tapestry of emotions that had driven her toward infidelity. Every tremulous word peeled back layers of artifice, revealing the raw, unvarnished truth of her inner battles, a litany of unmet desires, suppressed dreams, and the painful weight of expectations that had stifled her spirit for so long. Robert listened, his eyes a mirror of sorrow and reluctant understanding, as the room filled with the quiet hum of reconciliation. For him, each revelation was a bittersweet dagger, slicing through the comfortable certainties of their shared past while planting tentative seeds for a future that might, with painstaking care, nurture forgiveness. Over the following weeks, as the world outside shifted from the grays of winter to the tentative greens of early spring, the couple labored to rebuild their mutual foundation. Their home, once a silent testament to hidden betrayals, began to pulse again with small, shared rituals, a morning cup of tea taken together, quiet walks along meandering paths by the river, and long conversations under the vault of a starlit sky. The process was neither swift nor without setback. Moments of doubt and painful regret resurfaced like echoes in an empty hall, yet each time these dark currents threatened to overwhelm them, a fragile, mutual understanding would emerge, a whispered reminder that, even in the aftermath of infidelity, love could evolve into something more profound when nourished by truth. In the interstices of restored routines, the specter of Nathan continued to linger as a silent reminder of the choices that had irrevocably altered the landscape of Cassandra's soul. Although his presence had receded into the background of her daily life, the memory of his passionate defiance, and the clarity it had momentarily given her remained etched in the quiet recesses of her heart. It was a bittersweet reminder that the journey toward self-discovery is often paved with moments of reckless abandon and unexpected clarity, each contributing to the mosaic of one's identity. His departure had forced Cassandra to confront an essential truth, that the path to wholeness sometimes demands a painful shedding of old skins, no matter how dear the memories embedded within them. Yet as the seasons turned and gentle rains washed the remnants of past transgressions from the streets, a new chapter began to unfurl beneath the soft glow of dawn. In this incipient light, both Cassandra and Robert discovered that the journey of healing was less about erasing past wounds and more about embracing them as integral parts of a shared narrative, a narrative that, while scarred, offered the promise of renewal stitched together by resilience and hope. Each tentative step forward was marked by moments of introspection and the tentative bloom of empathy, as they learned that even betrayal could give rise to an understanding more nuanced than simple absolution. As twilight deepened one evening, with a gentle breeze carrying the scent of rain-soaked earth, Cassandra stood at the threshold of a modest balcony, gazing out at a world that had both birthed and been transformed by her actions. The murmurs of the town below, the rustling of leaves in time with her inner rhythm, and the distant echo of remembered laughter converged into a single, poignant moment of clarity. In that suspended breath between night and day, she recognized that the essence of her being was not defined solely by the mistakes of the past but by the courage it took to face them head-on. And while the road ahead remained shrouded in uncertainty, each heartbeat whispered the possibility of redemption, a quiet promise that even the most fractured soul could, with time and tenderness, be whole again. Thus, with a spirit both embattled and resolute, Cassandra returned indoors, ready to meet Robert's eyes once more. Their shared silence, heavy with unspoken vows and the promise of renewal, filled the space between them like the soft glow of twilight, a gentle, enduring reminder that while the echoes of betrayal may never vanish entirely, the light of a renewed love can guide them through even the longest night. Under the gentle glow of a waning afternoon, Cassandra and Robert shared the silence that followed a storm, both heavy with sorrow and brimming with hope. The slow metamorphosis of heartbreak into understanding had painted their hearts with hues of resilience. Over time, amidst quiet walks and reverent shared glances, they learned that healing was a mosaic of regrets, forgiveness, and the unyielding strength of vulnerability. Cassandra's infidelity, once a sharp wound, had transformed into a mirror reflecting the raw beauty of imperfection. Together, they pieced together a new form of trust, not built on blind faith, but on honest conversation and the willingness to embrace each other's scars as signs of a life fully lived out. On a crisp evening, as twilight draped the world in soft indigo hues and the cool whisper of wind danced through the pines, the couple found themselves seated on a time-worn porch, bathed in the muted luminescence of a rising moon. In that sacred space, the ghosts of past missteps melted into gentle echoes, replaced by a solemn promise of renewal. The tender cadence of their shared silence spoke of battles fought and lessons learned, of a love that had withstood the harshest gales to emerge more luminous than before. Cassandra's eyes, once clouded by the frenzy of forbidden passion, now shimmered with a newfound clarity and resolve, while Robert, whose quiet anguish had given way to cautious hope, held her close with the devotion forged in the crucible of their shared pain. In the final embrace of that fragile night, their journey reached a serene pause. A closing chapter that was not an end but rather a promise of new beginnings waiting just beyond the horizon. As the distant murmur of a changing world mingled with the rustling of the ancient trees and the soft cadence of their hearts, Cassandra and Robert discovered an enduring truth. Redemption does not reside in the perfection of love, but in the courageous act of surrendering to each other's humanity. And in that hallowed understanding, beneath the starlight and the quiet breath of the night, their lives merged into a single, resilient tapestry, a story of trust reborn, where even the deepest wounds could seed the hope of tomorrow.